like to call to order the January 19th Brooklyn City School District Board of Education meeting. Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Here.
Mr. Neal.
Here.
Mr. Oper.
Here.
Mr. Slattery.
Here.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Here. Can we stand for the pledge, please? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We do not have any comments from visitors tonight. However, if you would like to make a comment, there will be a Google form on our website the day of the meeting that will be open where you can give your name, address, and your comment. No anonymous comments will be read at the board meetings, but that will be on our website the day of our board meetings if you would like to make a comment, since we're still limited on how many visitors we can have. Now on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Caleres?
Good evening, Mrs. Barcheck, Board of Education. We'll start this evening with Mrs. Kalish, our Assistant Superintendent, and Mrs. Kusko, one of our elementary teachers. They're going to discuss this evening our K through 5 math adoption curricular resources through Envision. After their presentation, they don't have to stick around, but then I'll have a few comments after that. Okay, Mrs.
Okay.
Barcheck? Okay, great.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board of Education. Thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. Over the last year, we have been trying to look at several different resources to help support our instruction in math. And so last fall, we started with an interest survey I sent out to the teachers in grades K through 12 to determine whether there was an interest in being a part of a pilot team. And that team would represent grade bands K3, 4, 8, and high school. And teachers responded to the survey knowing that they would have some after-school meetings that they would have to attend, and that we would be looking at various resources that they would then implement in their classroom and then provide feedback as we go through the process. And then at the end, we would make a selection based on the feedback. So the teachers that were selected are up there on the screen. We had Kelly Vistas in kindergarten, Deanna Baroe for first, Sue Grodick represented second, and they were part of the K2 grade band. Meredith Allman was in third, Patrick Yarman fourth, and Allison Kuska, who's here tonight, she represented our fifth grade team. And then Sharon Freight, Anthony Abramovic, Kristen Field, and Kevin Meehan were our 6 through 12 grade band. And I've carved out 6 through 12. We'll be presenting that finding at the one of the spring board meetings, because they've needed a little bit more time to examine their resources than our K5 team. Our group met several times after school, I don't know, probably 6, 7 times after school for several hours, looking at materials, we started with Ed Reports, which is a resource that teachers use and administrators to compare products that are out on the market, and it rates them based on their usability, their alignment to the standards, and so on. And so on the first meeting, we looked at 4 products. After I gave the teachers the access to the Ed Reports, they looked through, they picked out the ones that they thought would be good to look at. So we started with these 4. Envision primarily started in the primary and secondary grades. It is a K-12 product, but our high school found pretty quickly that it wasn't something that they wanted to move forward with. Intermediate and primary thought it was worth digging in a little bit more. Math Expressions was another, it was a HMH product that we looked at, and Into Math was also looked at, but pretty quickly we found that there were a lot of gaps in those 2 products in terms of the standards, and they were abandoned fairly early in the process. And then 4th grade did work with Zern a little bit, and they spent a pretty good amount of time on it. One of our math teachers did there, but again found that there were gaps and a lot of supplementing that would need to happen. And so the team decided that they really wanted to focus on Envision, and so we moved forward with that product. And we created a rubric that kind of evolved over time. There's a link there. Mr. Black could click on that, and it just gives you kind of a, oh, of course you don't have access, so never mind. But there was a rubric, and I can share it with the board if you'd like it. But it's pretty detailed. All of the teachers that were in the pilot team completed the rubric to give feedback on where they felt the product fell in line with different criteria for ease of use, alignment to the standards, which is critical, manipulatives, things like that, how it's engaging online. And K-5 in particular, grades 3, 4, and 5, really spent a lot of time digging into it. And I have Mrs. Kuksa here tonight because she is one of our teachers that really dug deep into this, and I think she, along with Mr. Yarman, have really been able to explore the product to its fullest extent. So
All
it's your
right,
time.
thank you very much. First and foremost, I want to thank our administration for giving me the opportunity to have an active role in selecting a product that will become an absolutely amazing tool for us to use in the future. So looking at the kind of elements of why we felt the Envision program was successful for our grade level, our grade bands. First and foremost, the alignment to the curriculum. In a very short amount of time, it was pretty easy to see that the alignment to the standards was spot on. And so many of the standards, the way that they were set and the pacing that was provided, the lessons build off of one another. So it's not just learning a skill, it's about learning a process and having a little bit more of a mathematical understanding. And we felt the Envision program did a nice job of doing that. It has an extensive online component included with it, which obviously in the times that we're in, that is absolutely incredible to have. So even when we have kiddos who are learning remotely, learning virtually, we're able to continue our instruction just as if they were in the classroom. So we still utilize the online component while we're in person, but we can also then extend that beyond the classroom. So the portal of digital lessons that comes with Envision has just an absolute plethora of resources that you can utilize, and it has so many different activities to engage the students. So the one piece that I want to really hit on is the visual learning piece that's offered with each lesson. It allows students to be able to go back and basically watch a snapshot of the lesson however many times they need. So, you know, the whole idea of, I don't remember what we did in class, isn't really something that they can refer back to anymore, because now they can go right back to that visual learning piece and be able to more or less see the lesson just as it was taught during the day. The ability to customize the Envision program, so, you know, education is not one size fits all, and so we're able to take the different lessons and we can tailor it to meet the needs of our students. Whether it be an entire class or if it were to be just individual students, we can adjust the different activities to make sure that it's really hitting on the skills that we're wanting to address and or assess at that time. With that being said, that leads right into the ability to be able to differentiate for our students. So in addition to being able to customize assessments, the Envision program itself offers a quick check assignment, which again is customizable, so you can make it as short or as long as you would like. But once those students complete that quick check, the program itself will then automatically assign to them either a remediation activity where they're going to be retaught the things that they struggled with, or they will be given an enrichment activity. So it's not just about helping those that are falling behind, but it's also providing an opportunity to stretch those kiddos who are ready to be pushed beyond, you know, what we're learning at that given time. This component right here to me has been the greatest gift, because it allows us to now have opportunities to meet a little bit more one-on-one with students, because we know that students are being sent off at a pace that they can handle, and so it's not, you know, constantly having to check in with all these students at once. Instead, I can have that individual time to really meet the needs of each individual student. In terms of the assessment piece, we're able to actually kind of hone in on map data. And so even though the assessment aligns with the topics as they're set up through Envision, we're able to really take a look at linking, you know, how students are doing on those map tests and seeing where our deficiencies lie. And then we're able to actually hone in a little bit closer on what are the areas that we're truly struggling or seeing a gap in the classroom. Lastly, the assessments, as I'm sure my students would be able to tell you, they're rigorous, they're hard, but they are absolutely aligned right with what the state assessment looks like. So they're given an opportunity to see what they're going to see at the end of the year when those state assessments do come. And then lastly, the idea of spiraling skills. So, you know, I'll be the first one to admit that a week before the state test, we're trying to hit on, hey, remember what we did back in August and in September? We need to kind of refresh those skills. The Envision program has so many components that really draw in skills that we've been working on throughout the entire year. And so we've had an opportunity to, teach something in August, September, but it comes back around, not necessarily every day, but I would say almost weekly. Every student is given an opportunity to kind of see those skills again, and it gives us an opportunity to stay fresh on everything that we've worked on throughout the course of the year. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to just say the fifth grade team in particular has done a really nice job of taking, if you recall, last year we switched from STAR as our district assessment, and we switched over to MAP, NWA MAP, which gave us a lot more information. When we give an assessment, we can dig deeper into what students are lacking. And the fifth grade team has done a nice job starting last year with taking that data, really breaking it down, and then moving kids according to their needs so that they could better target interventions and extensions for kids who either are struggling or who are excelling. And so I do applaud the fifth grade team for that. And Allison has taken that information and then embedded it in her math program. And so we're really excited. I'm excited to see, and I know they are excited as well, particularly with being online. I can't imagine where we would be if we hadn't started this process and we did, because they would be trying to scan everything in that they had handmade, because at that point, that's what we were, when I got here, that's what we were using. They didn't have a series to use. So timing was good, just by chance, but it also has slowed us down a little bit in adoption. The plan was last year to have an evaluation completed by the end of the school year, and bring it to the board in the spring, and then adopt for fall adoption and implementation. Unfortunately, COVID hit in the spring, and that slowed us down a little bit, but the team was convinced that they wanted to keep moving forward, and so we were able to work with the vendor and extend the pilot through the beginning of this school year. So we got the extension, and we're good until Valentine's Day. But after this presentation, the goal is that hopefully the board will accept the bid that we received from the vendor, which I was able to negotiate and get us a little cheaper. But then the teachers will have full access, and it's a 6-year license. So they'll be set, and the nice thing about an online platform is if it's updated or renewed, it automatically rolls in. There's no additional charges because we've already signed on for that agreement. And you're not buying new textbooks because it's online. So we're excited. I hope that we're able to meet with the board in the spring and present a similar situation for our grades 6 through 12 as we're in the middle of those pilots at this time. And we're doing science too, so it's a good time.
Michelle, when was the last time we did an adoption like this?
10, well, for math, it was probably more than 10 years ago, because it was the everyday math was the last adoption,
that was
which was
before I was middle school
pre-standards
principal.
change.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at least 10 years was the last that I could find an adoption of a textbook series.
Thank you. This is well needed, much needed.
Any questions from the board?
No, the fact that we're online, it's pretty seamless from in person, the kids
Yeah,
coming in versus
it's made their
coming out.
lives much, much easier in terms of trying to meet the needs of all of our
Different
kids and keep
styles
them
of
engaged,
teaching
yeah,
when you're-
for sure. So.
Just general, are we up to date with technology as far as everybody's Chromebook? Each kid has almost, we should be one-to-one,
We
correct?
are one-to-one.
All
Yes,
right.
we are one-to-one
Good.
with our Chromebooks. So every student has a device, and we have some students that are utilizing district hotspots because of their internet connectivity. So all of our kids are actively
Good,
hooked up and online.
that's what we need.
All right.
Is there grant money for that?
For the
For the
hotspots?
hotspots?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
okay, because I know the
Yep.
county did something with the city of Cleveland.
Yeah, we utilize the connectivity grant to subsidize the hotspots for our students.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
job,
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ms. Barczyk, I'm going to continue. So a couple shout outs and congratulations to, and then first of all, thank you to Mrs. Kalish and Mrs. Kuska for being able to come this evening. You don't have to stay through this part if you don't want to. Couple shout outs to our staff members, Chris Rogers, Sharon Freight, and Barb Manley were recognized by Chick-fil-A for their efforts during this COVID pandemic. And so I just wanted to publicly acknowledge that and thank them for everything. And really, all staff members and everybody during this time has done a tremendous job, but since Chick-fil-A specifically mentioned them, I want to shout out to them and congratulations. Also want to recognize Mr. Casper, our art teacher at Brooklyn High School. He was recently given the honor of having a photograph submission selected for display in the upcoming 2020 International Juried Photograph Exhibition hosted by the University of Southern Mississippi Museum of Art and School of Performing and Visual Arts. So congratulations to Mr. Casper. Obviously, he's bringing his professional skills and engaging our kids, so I want to acknowledge his award and his efforts, so congratulations. This week marks the beginning of, as announced by Governor DeWine, the 1B phase of the COVID-19 vaccination distribution. The goal is still to, according to the state, is to still have those vaccinations rolled out to educators / school employees by February 1st. So that's good news. We'll see if that happens. I anticipate that may not happen that February 1st, but hopefully at some point mid-February, our staff starts to have access with for those vaccines. Governor also asked all school districts to commit that want to have those available vaccines for a commitment from school districts to be either in-person or hybrid by March 1st. We've already fulfilled that obligation. I think our hybrid schedule, the way it is set up, is a model for school districts in Northeast Ohio. I love the fact that our kids get to go 4 days a week along with servicing our students in a remote capacity. So I think we've kind of, hit a good spot with our hybrid. I don't see our hybrid schedule changing for a while. I'll be sending a letter home to families tomorrow announcing just that we're going to stay on our hybrid schedule through February 19th, which is the week of President's Day. So we'll stay on our hybrid schedule until that week. And as we get through February, we'll make a determination of what our continued schedule looks like. The fact that we're 4 days a week, we're about as close as we can to being all in 5 days a week, makes me feel real good. I think we're continuing to see, issues with quarantining from our students, but all of those issues traditionally are coming from outside of the school. So we've had a couple incidents, to be honest, of students who have come to school with symptoms, and we've had to quarantine. So I would ask our families and our parents to communicate with us, to work with us. We want to err on the side of caution in this. If kids are sick, if kids aren't feeling well, keep them home, because everything's not COVID. But we want to make sure that in this day and age that if it does turn out to be something more serious, we don't want to have to impact the school safety or the school community. The only reason I really see a shift back to remote is if we have a staffing issue, or if we start to see a significant increase in cases in the school. For example, X grade level has multiple cases. I may come to the board and say, listen, we need to take a week break because we want to make sure we maintain healthy. Outside of that, I think we're in a good groove. I think we're doing the right thing. I think our staff is handling everything amazing, and I'm optimistic that we can continue in this hybrid schedule for the rest of the spring and approaching the end of the year. Of course, my goal is to get our kids back 5 days a week. I think we're going to have to look at that. We have to look at the vaccine rollout. We have to look at the health conditions of the county, because I don't want to ignore those conditions, because those are important. But I also, and I think I've mentioned this before, I don't want those health conditions of the county to be the sole determination in driving our decisions. I think we need to look at both. We need to look at those the county health conditions along with our data to say, okay, what is the true impact on our school system? So I'll be sending that home to families tomorrow, and then principals will be rolling out messages to their families, I'm sure, shortly after. Just a reminder that Monday, January 25th, so this coming Monday, is a Records Day, in-service day for our staff, so no school for students. second semester, we're already halfway through the year, begins Tuesday, January 26th. And for those families that believe remote learning is a good option for their children this year, that's fine. We support that. If you still have not signed up for that remote learning option, please contact your building principal immediately. Last thing, I just want to thank the board members. I want to thank Mr. Singer for his service as vice president. Mrs. Barczyk, Mr. Menil, thank you for your service as our board officers. This month is School Board's Recognition Month, so I want to thank you for everything you do. I've appreciated our partnership and appreciated our work so far this year. So those are my comments, Mrs. Barczyk. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Claris. Now on to the treasurer's report.
The ESC of Western Reserve has officially took over our payroll. I've been talking back and forth with the woman today. She seems amazing. She knows what she's doing, so hopefully there'll be a seamless transition. And I'm also in communication with Red Tree Investments to see if we can invest some of our available funds. So more information on that will come.
Okay,
That's it.
thank you. Now on to board comments and board committee reports, and we're going to start off with Mr. Singer.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to congratulate again, Michelle, thank you for the great presentation, Ms. Kuska. I love this new innovation of Envision. I hope it's like Windows 10.0 version, so perhaps it'll last for another 10 years plus, but I'm truly impressed with that. I'm also very thankful that the governor and his staff have decided to put our teachers and first responders first in line for the vaccine. You know, protecting our teaching staff and administrative staff, I think it's very important. And it goes beyond just having the kids back into school, but to make sure that all of our teachers are safe and administrators are safe. You never know where COVID's going to hit. I have to schedule a cataract surgery this year, and I talked to my eye doctor, and we did a virtual meeting. She was going through all the particulars of cataract surgery, and I told her, I said, well, I really want to hold off until I get the vaccine. She's kind of nonchalant. I've never seen a doctor cry. I'm thinking, what did I do to her? Or what did I say to her that caused her to break out in tears? Well, here she had lost her dad, 72 years old, a pillar of health, and caught COVID, and unfortunately, COVID got the better of him. So kind of a stark reminder of how important it is to get those vaccines to our staff and our teachers. So on the opposite side of the spectrum, it's come to my attention that some parents and students have learned that one of our high school teachers is using their classroom as a political soapbox and bullish pulpit in order to indoctrinate the students in their classrooms. I find this very disturbing. This kind of behavior of forcing one's political ideology and affiliation into classroom environment is unacceptable. It's unacceptable to me as a parent and as a board member. And it borders on violating every tenet of how a professional teacher should behave. Where I work, we have a code of conduct and a culture. And that says that you do your job the way it's been outlined for you. And if you stray from that job and do something that's unacceptable, you'll be called on it. The classroom is no place for opining on one's politics, sexual preferences, religious beliefs. As a board member, I advocate for any debate of popular topics. But the teacher's role should be one of a neutral moderator. Show them where to find the information. Teach them how to get the information. We have neither in this situation, unfortunately. In fact, I would question some of the students who are castigated or reprimanded for thinking a contrarian opinion in the same classroom. Again, this is very disturbing because these are comments from parents and from students. A student should not need to know what the teacher's political affiliation is or ideology in the classroom. This is especially true if the subject matter is outside of the bounds of the classroom curriculum. We are not here to provide bully pulpits for teachers or staff that promote and support violent organizations that call for harm to come to those who defend us every day. So it pains me to even think about this, that we have someone in our midst that surrounded by some wonderful teaching staff and dedicated teaching staff. If it does take a monitor in the classroom to capture and record these unprofessional instances left unfettered by their own peers and administration, my recommendation would take disciplinary action for anyone violating school board policy. We have some of the best teaching staff here at Brooklyn. I'm thankful that most subscribe to some sort of code of ethics and culture that promotes our students learning for themselves, are forming their own opinions, not one that is propagandized by a rogue teacher. This kind of behavior jeopardizes support from our parents, our students, and other stakeholders in Brooklyn who expect the best delivery of learning subject matter that the teachers are hired to deliver. Our goal is to bring back native Brooklyn residents, students who have left Brooklyn schools for a variety of reasons, including, the faith issues, bullying. I can go on and on. I've been on this board for 10 years, and I've seen it all. We don't need to add another reason for students to leave our Brooklyn schools. So my advice is just this is all it is advice, is to all the teachers, if you see something, say something. To administrators, see something, say something, do something. I'd be happy to discuss this with any concerned parent or stakeholder. I can be reached at 216-978-1931. End of report.
Thank you, Mr. Singer. Now on to Mr. Rob Slattery.
Thank you. The school board, or the rec board meeting was canceled for January, so I'll wait to hear, to get another date for the meetings. There's a lot going on with the playground down at, what's the playground?
Marquardt.
Up a bit off.
Marquardt?
Marquardt, sorry. I would like to thank Loretta from Codes for Kids. She contacted me. I've got a relationship with that organization, and they've extended it to Brooklyn City Schools. We're going to be setting up a package. They actually provided 150 brand newer codes today, and they'll be able to, once we set the account up, we'll be able to get somewhere between 250 to 300 brand new coats for kids. So, I mean, if you have a child that needs a coat, contact Mrs. Seco. Like I said, we delivered 150 today, and we will get more. The nice thing with the second round is we actually submit the sizes, so we should be able to accommodate every need. So it's a great organization. You'll see all the barrels outside all the stores. They take donations, and they help quite a few people, so we appreciate that.
Thank you for
That's all I have.
facilitating that. Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's it. Okay. Now we're on to Mr. Jim Ober.
Thank you. Thank you to your presentation. I'm always interested as far as how the subject of math gets into a child's head. Lord knows I had enough trouble with it. That stuff's always fascinating to me. Thank you. Polaris, as of today, since August 1st, Polaris has had 40 confirmed cases of COVID among students, 1 teacher and 2 support staff, and none are currently active. Contact tracing revealed that all of the cases did not originate in Polaris. 16 of the 21 programs are full-on in school, 4 are hybrid, and 1 is totally remote. Each district in the consortium has now had a virtual sophomore night where you can go in and online. Each night was for a specific district. They can go in, take a 360 virtual tour of the school and the programs, and see where their interests lie. Brooklyn's was last Wednesday's is 13th, and they've been all very well attended. If you had a chance, even just go in and take a look, and just look at any program, it'll give you a virtual tour. It's really neat. Mr. Matt Ruby of Fairview Park was elected president, and Mr. Greg Sertman of Olmsted Falls was elected vice president. I passed out satellite program costs for each district, or just for Brooklyn, actually. Just want to explain how this happens. If you remember, the people that have been on the board for a long period of time, there was a gentleman that came up here fairly frequently, Mr. Kinney, who used to mention about how Brooklyn pulled the vocational program from Parma and put it in Polaris, and they did it without a vote of the population, the voters, and it was just, he didn't like it. Anyway, this is for the last school year. For satellite programming, we have 69 students in engineering and 188 in the gateway programs. The state funding, or the net funding from the state, if we didn't have Polaris, we would have $83,000 more to our general fund, which is roughly the cost of the teacher and benefits. And the total cost for Brooklyn's satellite programming is $242,000, with $22,000 of purchased costs, services, totaling about $264,000. Polaris picks up the other $180,000 of that. So for the price of, like I said, a teacher and a fraction, you know, we're able to take care of 257 kids in satellite program. So I just wanted to, because I get a lot of questions as far as what do we get for our money, and I think that's
Get a lot.
pretty good bang for our buck.
Beautiful.
Kind of piggyback off of what Dr. Claire said, hopefully with vaccinations coming on, I hope we get back to some semblance of normalcy. And they've made the schools as safe as possible. You know, Governor DeWine has said, you know, your kids are as safe as schools anywhere, so sooner we can open up full-time, the better.
Agree. Yep.
And that's about all I have, and I'd like to, and that's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Roper. Now on to Mr. Rocky Neal.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Ladies, thank you for presentation. It comes down to, in school, reading, writing, and arithmetic. And I think arithmetic is very important, because we all gotta figure out how we get paid and how much we get paid, as long as we have jobs. So, thank you again, appreciate it, and look forward to voting on the resolution, voting for the resolution. So, one of my committees this year is the legislation committee, which I will be reporting on state legislation. Since I did run for the state school board, Jim, thank you for giving me the legislation, so I will be reporting on that from each month out, all right? Wellness committee, we did not have a meeting. I don't know when we'll have a meeting and all that stuff, so I'll set that up. And I just want to thank everybody, and that's all I got today.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. I'd like to thank you for the presentation. Thank you so much. It was very informative. It's always interesting to hear about a new curriculum, because people wonder, like, what are we doing? Are we, you know, and adapting a new curriculum is never easy or cheap by any sense, you know, and it takes a lot more time, I think, than people realize, and a lot more, you know, investigating and research. I think people think we just, like, go to, you know, go online and say, oh, that looks good, let's try that one, but they really don't understand everything that goes into it. So thank you, ladies, for everything, and it was very informative. I appreciate your presentation. I have a very short report. I would like to also wish good luck to our winter sports athletes as they're competing. Thank you so much. Represent Brooklyn well. We appreciate it. And I am looking forward to seeing our second quarter honor and merit roll students at our next meeting. And that's all I have. And if anyone would like to speak to me, they can always reach me at 216-406-4304. Now on to the reading of the agenda, and our tonight's reader is Mr. Rick Singer.
Thank you, Madam President. Be it resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the financial statements of receipts and expenditures for the month of December 2020, including all purchase orders paid for the month of December as submitted.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second? Questions, comments?
Did we miss something here?
I think you jumped 3-1.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
approval of
No.
minutes?
We can do,
Yeah.
switch it back.
Okay.
Yeah, we're fine, but I just,
Do we vote?
You wanna vote on that one, or? Yeah, that's fine. Mrs. A, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
did we motion it first?
Yeah, you did. You
Yeah.
gave the motion.
Did I?
Yeah.
I missed it.
You gave the motion, Mr.
Hang on
Neal.
a minute, I'm sorry. Yes.
Mr.
A
Oper.
little
Yes.
off today.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes,
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
fighting his own motion.
Oh, wow.
Like to throw that curveball every once in a while.
Keep us all on our
Stay tuned
toes.
for the second half.
Be it resolved that the minutes of the January 6, 2021 Board of Election regular organizational meeting be adopted, and all action taken by the Board of Education at said meeting is hereby reaffirmed and approved.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second? Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, such for Mr. Neal takes back his motion?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the second reading and adoption of the following board policy. Policy 0157, appointment to joint vocational school
I have a-
district board.
A motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the purchase of textbooks and curricular resources to support the K-5 math instruction, also known as Envision, as brought forward on the January 19th, 2021 meeting.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second. Questions, comments?
Thank you.
Just
Appreciate
want to
it.
thank Mrs. Kalish for negotiating on the price.
Thank you.
I never realized how much work. I just thought when I was a kid going here that the mean teachers just made these lessons up. So it's kind of very informative.
That's how the magic happens. Mr. Flynn. That's how the magic happens.
Thank you very much.
Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Absolutely.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent to enter into an agreement with Stephanie Bowlin, NIC certified signing instructor for virtual instruction in the preschool program. The agreement is on file in our treasurer's office.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent to enter an agreement with Automation Mailing and Shipping Solutions for the purpose of district postage. This agreement is on file in the treasurer's office.
Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Sec- Questions, comments?
Ms. Barczyk, this is just, we have to get a new piece of equipment. It's a new contract, no additional cost to the district, same cost per month. I may take, it might be an extra $1 or something per month, so.
Thank you.
It's really just kind of keeping us updated with the technology.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Anyone else? Mrs. A, can call the roll?
It's $2 a month, sorry.
Oh.
Mr. Singer.
Sorry,
No.
not that you're counting, right?
Wow. I like her.
Sorry about that.
Did I say that out loud?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent to enter into agreement with the colleges listed below to qualify students for College Credit Plus during the 2021-22 school year per the attachments. Agreements are with Kent State University and Lorraine County Community College.
Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second. Questions, comments?
Yeah, this is our annual agreement with colleges. We don't have anybody attending Kent State University, but we're just kind of doing it as a formality because we have to in case students would want to attend classes there. We're going to do most of our work through Lorraine County Community College next year. We get the, we'll get the reduced rate because we're going to have our Brooklyn certified teachers teaching those courses. So, but if one of our students decided they wanted to take an online class through LC, then they would have that opportunity through a different rate. But because it's being taught on site, we're going to get that lower rate per credit hour, and I believe it's $51.
It's $42 if our teachers provide the instruction, it's $51 if it's co-taught with our teacher and an LCC teacher.
So very, very good opportunities for kids, and right now we do that with Akron. We're moving everything to Lorraine County Community College, and those courses that those students take are transferable to any public college in Ohio. So kids can walk out the door with college credit, but they're still here on campus, which I think is very important for our kids to be here with us in Brooklyn.
Now, with these relationships, and this may be just
Yeah.
a no, but with these relationships, say if we have a teacher, administrator, somebody, an employee that wants to go and further their education, do they get that same rate? Or is it just for students?
No, because the criteria to actually teach a College Credit Plus course is you have to have a a master's in the content area. So if I want to teach biology, a college biology class offered to our students, one of our teachers has to have a master's in biology to do
Well,
that.
I'm talking outside of that.
Yeah, they will. They do not get that. They do not get that typical rate. There have been
Okay.
grants that have been available for secondary teachers to kind of go down that road. I'm sure they're out there. I have not heard of them, but there are ways for our teachers to get reduced rates if they want to pursue that.
Okay,
And
thank
I
you.
will say, we have worked with universities, if we're gonna offer professional development and we wanna offer credit for that professional development that teachers wanna take, we can work with universities and they'll often give a reduced rate for teachers to get their 3 credit hours or whatever, as long as they were complete the course. And
Okay.
LCCC has been a great partnership, so I suspect we'll have more of those opportunities. But in terms of, taking coursework for teaching CCP classes, that's a pretty big investment, and that would be something that the teacher would have to do outside of that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. A, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Look at this, motion to extend the Family First Coronavirus Response Act to provide employees of the Brooklyn City School District with paid leave for certain qualifying reasons related to the COVID-19 pandemic from January 1st, 2021 through March 31st, 2021, per the attachment.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second? Questions, comments?
Ms. Barcheck, Board of Education, just a quick explanation of this. So the federal government has allowed us the opportunity to extend portions of the FFCRA to, that came into, as a response to the pandemic. The only portion that I would recommend that we extend through March 31st is the paid sick leave piece. So for example, a cleaner is forced to quarantine because his or her spouse or some family member comes up with, test positive for them, they're required to quarantine. Without this motion, without this resolution, what we would do now is we would have to charge that employee sick time. I struggle with that for our classified employees because unlike our certified teachers, for example, our certified teachers that have to quarantine, they're actually working from home. They're at home, they're teaching our kids. We provide a sub in the room to monitor the students, so they can actually work from home. I struggle with doing that for our classified employees in that position because of the pandemic. We'll have to reevaluate what happens come March 31st, but this also covers us from an auditing standpoint, because if we get an audit, we gotta have a valid resolution on why we're paying people that are not using, because it's not a qualifying use of sick leave. So that would be my recommendation, just to take care of our employees until we kind of try to get through this. And again, it's more of an outlier than the norm, and it happens every so often, but I feel it's an appropriate thing to do, especially for our classified employees. Yeah.
Will there be any remedy from the state to kind of superimpose this, what we're doing right now?
I'm hoping they allow us the opportunity to extend it again from April 1st until the end of the school year, because COVID-19 is not magically going away on April 1st. So, but right now this covers up us at least through March 31st if we get an audit we don't want an audit finding because of this.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mrs. A, can you call
And
the
I know
roll?
Mrs. A does not want an audit finding, for sure.
Thank you. Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education approves the attached memorandum of understanding between the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education and the YMCA of Greater Cleveland for the purpose of running Hurricane Cafe.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Questions, comments?
This is the annual agreement. I think we started Hurricane Cafe when I was middle school principal. There's no cost to the district. right now, it fills a great need for our grades 3 through 7, especially because we're releasing at 1:30. So some of our students who may have daycare, parents who have daycare issues, are using our Hurricane Cafe to kind of, hold kids in place until parents can get them. And they do a lot of great things with kids. I'm a true believer, anything we can do for kids to be active, especially at our younger grades who may not always have that opportunity, I think it's a benefit. Talking to Mrs. Seco, it's a hit with our younger ones, our third, fourth, and fifth graders, and so I would recommend passing this.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mrs. A, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Ober.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District of Education, Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent to enter into an agreement with BC Technologies Company, also known as FinalForms. This agreement is on file in the treasurer's office.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second. Questions, comments?
This will be our all-encompassing platform for student registration, student enrollment. Parents will sign emergency forms. We also will use it on our staff side from an HR perspective, and we use it with our athletics. So it's a way to really kind of centralize all of our housekeeping and our record keeping from the student information side into one place. It's going to replace the current system. And again, there's really nothing wrong with the current system, but because we use it in FinalForms and athletics, because I think there's an HR side which will help us collect some of the data we need to collect. I think it's a great user-friendly program.
Thank you.
Question for you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does this sync in with our treasurer's office, with our software as well? Is there a need to?
It does not. It syncs. So this will sync into our Dazzle student management system.
Okay.
And so there's really not a need from a financial side for it to sync into. So this will be separate from, this is more of the student parent side of things as opposed to Colleen's side of the house with treasurer.
Okay, thank
Yep.
you.
Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Ober.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Be it resolved pursuant to the shared transportation service agreement between the Brooklyn City School District, Board of Education, also known as Brooklyn, and Parma City School District Board of Education, known as Parma. Brooklyn hereby provides notice to Parma before January 31st, 2021, that Brooklyn intends to terminate the agreement effective June 30th, 2021.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Mrs. Barcheck, Board of Education, I think when we talked earlier in the fall, it was one of my goals, one of our goals to take a hard look at our transportation, how we do things, why we do things, some of our cost. I'll have more specific information to the board for next month, but we're to a point where I think it's best for the district we're still gonna have to partner with another third-party vendor, but I'd like we have the vehicles. We're hoping, right now I believe I have 2 drivers that are willing to come aboard and drive for us. I'd like to begin the transition of at least looking at bringing back our transportation in some form. I believe with going in this new direction, I think we have a chance to save some significant dollars for the district. I also look at it as a pride issue for me, for the district. I always struggled when I see our kids going on a Parma bus to an away game. And again, thanks to Parma for their work with us and their partnership, and they've been a great partner in this. But I think it's from a financial standpoint and a community standpoint, I'd like to start looking at what that looks like for our district, and I believe we're able to do that for next year. We're required by the contract to notify Parma. Spoke with Dr. Smilak this morning, and he understood, and no hard feelings, but we just want to make sure that was official resolution so we could meet those timelines.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have a question. I apologize for not doing more research. I just got kind of caught on this one. My only concern is, from a logistics standpoint, is there, with COVID, is there a difference in application of how many kids can go on a bus that's privately chartered versus a
Yeah, I
school
think,
bus?
we spoke with them today about that, and really, they're gonna follow our recommendation from a policy standpoint. So I think, right now, Parma has the 1 student per seat rule.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna need to, as we get into the spring and looking at the health conditions, see what our policy becomes. Right now, I anticipate, our Brooklyn buses doing the Polaris runs in the morning and the afternoon, doing the midday preschool run, and then hopefully able to come back and do some of our special ed runs. I'm anticipating the third-party vendor that we hope to come into an agreement with, filling in our holes in the morning, like where we need from some of our students with disability. Suburban transportation will do our outplay students, which they do right now, so that's no different for us. And then the third-party vendor will do will fill in the holes for our athletics and our activities when our 2 ladies, or 3 hopefully, don't take a trip. So I think with the combination of both, but bottom line is, when we spoke today, is they'll follow with whatever recommendation we have. That may call for us to add another bus in the morning or not. We're just gonna have to talk about that and look and see what that looks like. Right now we run 2 buses in the morning, and students are 1 per seat. So I don't imagine we're gonna need 3 buses, Mr. Singer, if we have 1 student per seat right now.
Good. Answers my question.
Absolutely.
Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Neal,
Yes.
Mr. Oper,
Yes.
Mr. Slattery,
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves employment of the following certified personnel as long-term substitutes effective January 25th, 2021. Well, that person is Carissa Stephenson, long-term substitute, K2 remote, BA Class 2, Step 0.
Can I have a motion, please?
So
Can
moved.
I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Right now, we have two sections of remote teachers, and because of the remote-only option for second semester, we had some younger students opt in a little bit more than we thought. Ultimately, this is a good thing because we're able to reduce the other sections, the other 2 sections. So it's going to be better class sizes for our kids. Ms. Stefanson here, she already works with our remote students, so it's really not going to be any different from their standpoint. Mrs. Stefanson will still be part of it. We're just changing her classification from the long-term sub to reflect that she's going to be teacher of record.
Anyone else?
Question, this goes to our treasurer. Is this going to mean she's going to be off the Title I payroll?
No, she's still gonna be on Title I.
Okay.
Anyone else? Mrs. A, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Neal,
Yes.
Mr. Oper,
Yes.
Mr. Slattery,
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Be it resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves employment of the following certified personnel as a long-term substitute effective 2/8/21 through 6/18/21, contingent upon satisfactory completion of all credentials and background checks. And that person is Barbara Slane, Class 4, Step 4, at a daily rate of $303.23 per day, not to exceed the 60-day period.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Ms. Slane is a former Brooklyn City School employee. She was a long-term high school counselor, and she was a middle school counselor when I was at the middle school. Ms. Slane's gonna work in a 60-day capacity, so there's more than 60 days between February 8th and June, 18th, so she's gonna work 2 to 3 days per week, or some weeks work 4. But it's basically gonna be a time card situation so that she can cover Mr. Hare's needs at the high school through the rest of the spring, scheduling, testing, college applications, things like that. And hopefully we'll have a little bit in the summer when we post the regular position, so the new counselor will transition with her also. And she's gonna start on February 8th, so she can transition with Mr. Plazinski before he retires on the 19th. Okay.
Anyone else? Mrs. A, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Be resolved that Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the employment of Janine Kingery as a classified substitute for the 2020-21 school year, contingent upon satisfactory completion of all credentials and background checks.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second? Questions, comments?
We had an opening as a classroom assistant. We're gonna approve her as a sub until she gets all of her credentials. You'll see another resolution on a future board meeting approving her as the regular classroom assistant once she fulfills those credentials. But this will allow us to get her started as a substitute to start working with kids.
Thank you. Mrs. A, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the unpaid leave of absence for Farron Bloom effective January 25th, 2021 through April 1st, 2021.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Be resolved that Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following volunteer for the 2020-21 school year. And that person is Anthony Batella, volunteer assistant boys high school basketball coach.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School Board District of Education hereby accept with regret the certified retirement of Mary Ellen Ryan effective at the conclusion of the 2020-21 school year.
Have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Thank you for all your years of service.
Mrs.
Been here a long time.
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Be resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby commends Mary Ellen Ryan for 33 years of service to the students of Brooklyn.
Can I have a
schools.
motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Just
Thank you
like-
very much.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank
Thank you.
Mrs. Ryan for all her work and dedication, and, I was upset that she wasn't here this year, but, thankful for her and congratulations on her retirement, so just wanna wish her well.
Anyone else? Mrs. A, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Okay, does this need a resolution?
Yeah.
Yeah, any elected,
Insurance and fringe benefits?
yeah.
Okay, be resolved that,
I think we all have to say no or yes and if we want it, so.
okay, I'm looking for the resolution here.
It's missing, be resolved, Mr.
Okay, be resolved that
Yeah.
any elected or appointed member of the Board of Education of a school district and dependent children and spouse of the member may be covered at the option of the member under any health care plan authorized under section 9.90 of the revised code. The member shall pay all premiums for that coverage. The members exercise an option to be covered under the section shall be in writing, announced at the regular public meeting of the Board of Education, and recorded as a public record in the minutes of the board. Amended by the 129th General Assembly, file number 39, SB 171-1, effective 6/30/2011. Effective date 6/4/1997, and also effective 9/29/2005.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the
Well,
roll?
I do have a question. We're voting on this. We're just voting on to approve it. I mean, it's not whether we're participating in this.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Call the roll.
Yes.
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Neal,
Yes.
Mr. Oper,
Yes.
Mr. Slattery,
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes. Do you have any correspondence related to action information? Okay, right, and then now, result of the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education enter into executive session for the purpose of the appointment, employment, or compensation of an employee or public official pursuant to RC 121.22G. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a
Second.
second? I would like to say, when we adjourn out of executive session, there will be no action taken. We will just adjourn the meeting for the night.
And Ms. Barcheck, the next regular meeting will be February 2nd, 2019.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep, right. Mrs. A, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Neal,
Yes.
Mr. Oper,
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
7:02.
Yep.